Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey, welcome to Big Blend Radio's Toast to the Art Show, where every third Saturday we get to chat with artist Victoria Chick. Victoria is a contemporary figurative artist and an early 19th and 20th century print collector. She's also worked as an art educator. She received a BA in art from the University of Missouri in Kansas City and is awarded an MFA in painting from Kent State University in Ohio. Excuse me, I can say that correctly. Now, I normally don't talk about all her qualifications, but I'm going to today. She's on our show every third Saturday. She's been on our show for a gazillion years of Big Blend Radio. Since the day one, right, Victoria? You've been on since the very beginning of Big Blend Radio.
I know.
Yeah.
Since day one is right.
That's right. So that means we're all spring chickens. And hello, Victoria, how are you? She's going to say, I'm just ducky. We're spring chickens and ducks today, right? That's
right.
how it is. So I bring all of this up because Victoria is an amazing artist. You can see her work at victoriachick.com. But, she lives in Silver City, New Mexico, which is in the southwest corner of the state, the land of enchantment. And we first connected with her when she was based out of San Diego County, and so were we. Then she moved. We also moved. We were in Tucson, I think. When was it? No, actually, we were up in Joshua Tree area. And she's like,
right.
Mike and I moved to Silver City, New Mexico, so you girls need to come over here. So Nancy and I said, okay, we'll take a drive. And this was before we were traveling full time, as we do now. And we've been going back and forth to Silver City for as long as I can remember. And it's all Victoria's fault. And we love it because Silver City is a beautiful destination. It is definitely an art community. So many artists and creative people, musicians, artists. There's theater, there's historic theaters in the downtown. It's just a creative, vibrant community with all kinds of little communities all surrounding it. It's home to the Gila National Forest, the Gila Cliff Dwellings National Monument, the Gila Wilderness Area, which is actually the first wilderness area in the country. So basically, you need to go there if you have not been. And if you go there once, you're going to go back again. But state of New Mexico is known for its art. Santa Fe, Taos, all those places, Albuquerque. But Silver City is also known as an art community. And Victoria said, we need to take this up a level of not just being a community with studios and art events and galleries. We need to take this up a level to actually having a fine art museum. Silver City itself has amazing museums, history museums, and also the Mimbres Pottery Museum at the university. But she said, no, when it comes to being an art destination, a community must have a fine art museum. And that's what she spearheaded and has a group of amazing people working with her for this project to come to fruition. If you've been listening to our show over the years, you've heard this conversation as it's been growing and working on getting a building, getting donations. They have had a lot of art donated, which is amazing. And it's grown into becoming what is the Southwest Regional Museum of Art and Art Center. So not only a museum, but an art center. So this educational component. So I encourage you to go to their website. It's swrm-art.org. Again, that is all linked in the show notes, no matter where you're listening. So welcome back to the show, Victoria. Are you ducky?
I'm absolutely ducky.
But you are Victoria Chick. You should say you're chicky.
Well, chicky doesn't sound as good as positive
ducky.
as ducky does. I don't
know.
But
listen, it's good to have you back. And it's, every third Saturday we get excited because we always have these amazing conversations about art. And you've taken us around the world in art and taught us so much. But I think that's, who you are as a person is to educate people on art in the most fun, open way where you allow people to come to their own thoughts and ideas and opinions about whatever they're seeing or experiencing. Is that part of what spearheaded this? I know there's a community side, which we'll get to, but spearheaded the idea for you about having a fine art museum in Silver City. Is that education, that getting
Well,
people to experience art without it always being in a gallery or a festival setting.
right. Well, I can't complain. Or I can't say definitely that I'm the first person that ever came up with the idea for a museum in Silver City, but I think I'm the only one who's done something about it. So,
Mm.
and I couldn't have done that without a lot of other people being on the board and coming up with ideas and working hard to kind of formulate the business aspect of having a museum and art center, because we want to provide a fine art museum that will be lasting, way into the next several centuries. We want it to be lasting, and we want it to be meaningful to the people today and the people tomorrow. So we are working and have worked toward that goal. And right now we have come far enough in our process of doing this that we are now ready to raise enough money to be able to purchase. I believe we're going to purchase a building, and not an existing building, and transform it into our fine art museum that will start a wonderful, beneficial cultural movement here in the Southwest. Right now, people who live here right now, even though there's lots of galleries here, a lot of people have a desire to see a museum. Well, the only choices they have for doing that is to drive a long ways, 4 to 7 hours in either direction to get to find a fine art museum, because there isn't one in the southwest quadrant of New Mexico, even though there's a lot of museums, really great museums, in the north central portion of the state. And unless you really understand what New Mexico looks like geographically, it might be hard to understand why it takes so long. But New Mexico is divided in half almost by the southern Rocky Mountains. So there's no roads, or very few roads going through the mountain areas. So you have to go around the mountains. So to get from the southwest to the north central is time consuming, and that's a huge barrier to getting to a museum. It doesn't let kids go to museums unless their parents can go, and that's always not possible for parents to take that much time off. So we really feel that a museum is very, very important for the I'm going to use the word local, but when I say local, I mean people in a 4 or 5 county area of southern New Mexico.
This is really important because Silver City itself is a small community. I know it's a city, but it doesn't feel like one. And then it's Grant County, like you're in the Arenas Valley, and your Cowtrail studio that you have, and you open that up for special appointments and events. I know right now it's different because you're housing a lot of art. I mean, you've got a lot of donations that have come in of art that is amazing art. And again, people, if you go to swrm-art.org, you can see some of this art that has already been donated. So the museum experience is already happening. I know you've already sponsored an upcoming event of a documentary of a really cool story. We can talk about that at the end of this segment, but the museum's already working on things, and it takes so much effort. Number one, to become a nonprofit. Then how do you get donations? And I know we'll talk about that too, but the importance too I think it's kind of, it's like you are taking care of balancing out the state. And I want to talk about local too, but balancing out the state in its art, right? It's top heavy.
You're right.
It's top heavy. I mean that in a good way.
I'm so happy that those early people that lived in that portion of the state recognized that. Well, first of all, they didn't recognize it as an art destination because except for artists, because the artists are the people that populated the area, except for and the Indians, and the Indians were artists as well. So those two groups respected each other's art, so that was wonderful. And many artists went there because they heard it was exotic, they heard the scenery was fabulous, they heard the light was fabulous in New Mexico and so much different than other places in the United States. So it really attracted them. And as time passed, and winters got colder in the north, and as population changed, and there was a shift to go to the west, that was where the opportunity was. So gradually, the area became more populous, and when that happened, then art galleries started to develop. That wasn't until about the middle of the 20th century, though, and of course, it's grown and grown and grown ever since. But people, when they think of New Mexico art, they generally thinking of Santa Fe and Taos, and deservedly so. We are trying to create a similar opportunity in the southwest part of the state for people to look at fabulous art and to people to learn from fabulous art, and for our local people to engage in doing fabulous art. So the museum and the art center is central to that idea.
I love this because that's what I was saying, like you're balancing out the state. It's not a competitive thing. It's about, hey, the South needs to it's now time for this area to rise up and have some art. And that's the beauty. I mean, Santa Fe, Taos, it is amazing. And like you're saying, this is history that built this. I mean, I think Santa Fe was one of the first places as an art market, like an actual designated destination for art, where collectors would go to collect and buy in this country, the Santa Fe.
Yeah.
And that just says, okay, we are a state that has this. Our capital did it. The Capitol building itself has the most amazing collection of art. And look at Albuquerque with its public art. And then Taos, of course. And then you go over to Silver City, which has an amazing art collection of public art murals and galleries. But now a fine art museum, what does that do for a community? I know we've talked about this on shows before, but how does that level up versus, hey, let's open more galleries and more studios, which are very important to the actual market and sales of art. But I always think a museum adds that, for me personally, adds an educational importance and value for people to understand just the value of art, and learn.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on the educational part of it. Museums in general don't have works of art in them until the artist or the particular work of art has been recognized as really significant. Okay, so the museums have already gone through kind of a selection process that's different than an art gallery has gone through, because museums want quality work, but they also want work that tells something historically. Something tells something about the era in which it was done. If you've ever taken art history, that's one of the things that is usually talked about in art history classes when they show you a slide, and or digital image now. So art reflects the era in which it's done. It's usually, sometimes it reflects the individual, but most often I would say that art expresses the thinking of an era, and that's important because history is important, and you look back and you see what was going on at the time that this painting was done or this artist was working. There might have been a war. It might have been prosperous. There might have been a revolution. There might have been a huge, like you go back into ancient history, or you could go to something where the people were still living a Neolithic lifestyle, and their work reflects that. So there's just so much you can learn by looking at the artwork of an individual artist or of a group of people from a certain period of time.
Mm.
And then the other part of that is, if you're interested in making art yourself, there's a lot you can learn by analyzing what other artists have done, because artists don't set out necessarily to say, I'm going to paint a pretty picture today. Artists generally have this kind of they have an idea, then they might do a sketch of their idea, but they have several sketches of their idea with changing the way certain things are arranged. So you learn about how an artist has worked through to get the composition that he's finally decided to use, or to use the colors in whatever color harmony he's decided to use, or she has decided to use. So there's just a lot you can learn just by looking and analyzing. I mean, you don't have to go that deep. You could just look at a painting or a piece of sculpture or a piece of ceramic work or any kind of art object, and you could look at it and you could just enjoy it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's important for you to enjoy that. But you could also go deeper and analyze it if that's what you want to do.
And so there's that part of the museum that opens your mind, basically, and teaches, and the art center that goes into that too, because just put it to me, it just adds to what Silver City is already as an art community. And when I say that, it's actually like an artist community. So it's a creative hub. You can find live music, you can, all of that kind of thing.
Right.
So it's a creative center, and there's artists and musicians living all through the hills. Like literally, there's all these little communities, and the communities go out through the mountains. Like what, Victoria, you were saying, like, okay, how are parents going to get their kids out? There's so much to getting youth education, and even people that are of all ages living out in the boonies. You guys have a bunch of people living in the boonies. Like, not a lot of people. You have more boonies than you do people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I mean, like, out in the, that sounded bad, but it wasn't meant that way. It means out in the I want to say the Bosveld. Now I'm in South Africa. Out in the countryside. Let's put it that way. The New Mexico countryside. But you do. I mean, and that's part of the charm of the area. People living out, ranching and just living the small farm life too, and all kinds of, different lifestyles. And so the art center, part of that is to educate. And I know that this also appeals to visitors because you have a tourism community too.
Right.
So the art centers for the education of the people locally in the greater local communities, as I was saying, the people in the boonies, we like you.
Well,
you know what I mean?
The thing is about the boonies and who we're trying to serve, because New Mexico is the fifth most, let's say the fifth largest state from a square mileage standpoint, fifth largest. And we have a very small population, relatively speaking. So, and a lot of our areas is the boonies, So
everyone's spread out. Yeah.
Right. So that's fine. What we want to do, we have some specific ways that we want to address that. One of them is, well, first of all, just having the museum in Silver City, which is the largest town in this 4-county area. Just having the museum here makes it possible for people to get here in an hour rather than 4 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours or 7 hours away. So that's one thing. That's not going to help everybody, but it will help a lot of people. The other thing we're going to try and do within a reasonably short period of time after we get established is we want to have an art van, art, or like a bookmobile, an artmobile that will go to outlying communities at regularly scheduled periods of time, so that we can bring actual art from the museum itself to a geriatric center, or to a senior center, or to a school, or to a Cub Scout meeting. We can have materials with us where we could schedule an art making session, something that they'll have something when they're done that they can be proud of. Not, and I mean, I sound like a snob when I say this. Not something that's made out of macaroni and popsicle sticks.
Right.
Something that they can take home.
It's not a craft. It's not a craft.
No, it's something that they have learned something in the process, and they can feel satisfied with it. So that's another aspect. I think a third aspect is that we want to have after school programs for students here in these the two school districts that are closest to us, and
that's cool.
You know, art making in public schools has really suffered, along with music and some other creative kinds of endeavors. Right now, a lot of the art programs get dropped from schools after grade school or after junior high school. We want to rectify that and offer after-school programs for kids that are interested, and that would be a daily thing during the week, or maybe a Saturday class too. So there's a lot of things we want to do educationally for younger people and for the community in general.
That's amazing, though. But you know, when you think about the education component, right? That is such a huge part of it. So you're helping, you know, the kids, the school kids, you're helping others as well on that part. But so this is where I know you're looking at the mobile unit going out, but an actual building is going to be crucial for this museum to be what you want it to be. You can have virtual museums, but there's something about seeing art in its full form. Like I've looked at your art that you have, like the horses, right? You have the horses in your living room. That's a huge painting. And on screen, I can't get the same. I mean, it's beautiful, right? And I look at it on screen, but if I was standing there and seeing them, you bring the magnificence of the horse because it's so big. It's like horses have that magnificence. And so to me, I want to stand there in that magnificence. And same with sculpture. Sculpture, there's so much detail. I mean, you have to, how can it, there's some things that virtual is fantastic. It is. And right now you have that, and it's something great that people can see. But I do want to go in a building and just spend time actually being in the presence of that. Look at how many people go to the Louvre to see Mona Lisa. I mean, you can see Mona Lisa on your screen anywhere.
Yes.
You can make a t-shirt with her, you know, but there's a difference actually seeing the Mona Lisa. It's the, and she's my name, you know, she's got my name. So, you know, it's important.
You know, Lisa, one of the things that a lot of people who are not into art, let's say, there's a misconception that they have, that the only reason you want to have an art center or an art museum is for artists, and that's not true. Many people, I personally think everybody can benefit by going to an art museum. I know that if you go to a museum that has thousands and thousands of things in it, if you saw one thing that really caught your attention, that you really enjoyed looking at, that I call that a good trip to an art museum, because every time you go, you're going to have a different reaction from the time before. The other thing is, as far as making art goes, not everybody that is not an artist I can't. I'm going to say this better. Not every artists for everybody, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Even people who think they're not going to be artists, because so many other endeavors in life are benefited by visual learning. And for instance, I talked to my dentist, and he said he used art or drawing all the time he was in dental school because it helped him remember the fine points of what he was looking at. Or another guy I know who's a mechanical engineer. He used art all the time for designing.
Mm-hmm.
He had to when he was thinking out processes. What happens after this process as the conveyor belt goes around. They have to be able to visualize, and this is important in so many areas of life, of work. That we need to get away from the idea that if you take a drawing class, you must want to be an artist. That's not exactly true. Let's see.
Well, I agree. Because I always say creativity is the basis of life, right? It's part of it.
Right.
I mean, obviously we all have the other things, but like I always go to this. If you are going to hire an accountant, you want the creative one. You don't want the one who keeps within the lines. You want the creative one who knows the lines and then knows how to color outside of them, so you can not have to pay all the taxes, right? And still do it legally. I'm just saying, I'm just giving that imprint because creativity is so important, and a lot of people don't realize they even have it. They don't even. I think we should start calling it as one of our senses. I really do. Because it's that important. And I think museums, you could go to an art museum and maybe you have a big business presentation, some corporate thing, right? And where you have to wear high heels, and I don't want to ever. And you have this big thing, and you go to Silver City for a relaxing thing. You have this coming up, but you need a break so you can think and rejuvenate. Let's just think about this. People have this as an example, right?
Right.
You're stressed out. You have this big presentation coming up. All these thoughts are going through your head. You're going nuts, right? And you can't sort them out because all of these things are going on. Is it creative? Some of it is, right? And then some of it is just like, I have to get this done. You have that ugly voice in your head going, don't do the really creative one because you're going to bomb. It's not going to work. That's too outside the box, right? You need to do the proven method for the sale. No. Then you go away, and no matter what, even while you're on this vacation, this beautiful, beautiful place that's ticking, that little time bomb is ticking in the back of your head. I know this happens to just about I'm not gonna say everyone, but so many people when they travel, it's still there. That little thing in the back of your head's going, yang, 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 yang. And you need to get to a place where you actually can diffuse that little ticking time bomb. Silver City's a good place. But if you go to a place where, hey, you can relax in nature, and nature is that intense, you're going to start to diffuse that time bomb, and you're going to start to think, and you're going to do it clearly. Now, when you can go into a place, have nature be that present, and you can diffuse that way, then have a creative experience, you are on your path to rejuvenate your soul, body, mind, and spirit. And that creativity is going to come back where you can go, heck yeah, I can take that creative idea, but I'm going to triple fold it with this, 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 this. I got a plan. You're excited, you're rejuvenated, and you have the energy to execute. I'm just saying, that's what can happen when you go to a museum. You know what I mean?
Well, yes, and one of the things that we want to do, you mentioned tourists. One of the things that we want to do, one of the programs we want to have, is art tourism, so that people can make a reservation to come and work in our art studio for a day, for a week, for a month. They can be individuals, they could be a family, and they, as part of the larger package, like if they're here for weeks or a month, we can arrange for them to visit cultural sites. We can arrange for them to experience the art making as much as they want. that we can arrange for them. If they're more of a professional level, we'll even arrange for them to meet local artists who are interested in the same thing, so that they can meet people from Silver City and have a good time that way, talking about their favorite kind of art. So there's a lot of interfacing. There's a lot of creativity. There's a lot of possibilities for working out, even if they're not artists, for working out problems on paper with whatever media they want to work with, and it's really enjoying themselves.
That's awesome. And travelers now really want to have a true experience. It's experiential travel. It's travel that's transformational. That's a big deal that's happening. We don't want just a memory. We want a memorable memory, right? One that made a change, a positive change in our life.
Right. And I think that people that live here, one of the things that was very attractive to me when I first thought about moving here and came to visit the town a couple of times, was that people always say, "Where are you from? And why are you here?" Kind of those kind of questions.
How did you get here?
Why did you decide to visit here? And then you started, and they could come up. They say, "Have you seen such and such? Oh, you need to go there." And so there's an interchange. There's a friendliness. There's a genuine desire to meet people and to have a good time, show them around. So that's one of the things that really attracted me after visiting here, was that it was such a friendly community.
I want to go. It's a wonderful community, and you have such a rich history and art and architecture and nature. I mean, it's got it. I mean, quality of life is key there. I do want to go back to a couple of things on the museum, and then I want to talk about the campaign that you guys are working on to get a building. One thing is that I know you guys are working on actually having a permanent collection, but then also rotating displays once you have a building. That is something you'll be able to do properly, right? Where here's a permanent collection, but move things around. Tell us about that.
Okay. This got started really when I had this idea. It was kind of selfish because as you know, and some of your listeners may remember, that I've been collecting prints of various kinds for, almost 50 years now. And I have quite a collection. I was concerned of what would happen to my collection after I died. So I decided I would donate them to a museum. But at that time, that was only an idea, because there was no museum. There was not a hint of a museum at that time. So I talked to some other people I knew who had collected things, and they said, "Oh yeah, we're almost in the same boat," or "We think that's a good idea." But anyway, a lot of people responded to the idea of gifting their collections, sometimes before they were dead, sometimes after they passed away. They would leave them to the museum, and so the collection has grown. It has grown too much because right now everything's in storage. I don't see how we could actually take any more right now physically, because we don't have room in our storage area. But we are accepting donations for the future, and we are having people write a deed of gift, but it's in the future. So we have literally. I don't want to put a value on it, because value is kind of changing. So I would say we have probably to choose from for curated exhibits from a permanent collection. Right now we have close to 1,000 pieces of art of various kinds.
No way.
Not all paintings, not all prints. Some of them are pots, some of them are glass, some of them are sculpture. Anyway, but people want to give. It's a quality, and almost every piece that we have been gifted now or gifted it for in the future, that artist that produced that work already has works in other major museums. So these are top quality artists, and they've given us top quality examples of their work. So we're really, really thrilled with what we have so far. What we can do, we can break that up, because we don't want to just put a bunch of stuff up on a wall. Nobody learns from that. So what we are doing when we get closer to opening up, we'll have curators by that time, and the curators would develop exhibitions on themes, and there'll be a narrative to the exhibit, so that you can learn. It might be a historical narrative, where it goes through time, or it might be something a bunch of artwork that expresses a certain way of working, or artwork that of one man, how he, like a retrospective of work of that person. So there's all kinds of different ways curators develop exhibitions, but they're all meant to be educational, and they're all meant to be arranged so everything is set off to its advantage.
I was going to say that on top of that, with these curations and moving exhibits, permanent and then rotating exhibits, right? That you also have goals in regards to art education, like sponsoring art education, like with movies and art talks, lectures, like what you're doing right now. This month, you have a event, a documentary showing that you're sponsoring.
Yes, this is exciting, because it's so Silver City. we have there's a movie that we're going to show here called The Thief Collector, and this is partly a true story and partly based on journals that were left by the supposed thieves, the thief collectors, after they died. And it shows. Anyway, these people had an adrenaline-filled life, and they lived just outside of Silver City, and they were low-key people. Their neighbors thought they were great. They thought they were interesting people. They really liked them. Anyway, they died, and we have a group of people that own three guys that own this used furniture place, and they were called by a relative of the supposed thieves to do an inventory of the house and to disperse it. So they went to investigate the house, see what was in it, and it was a lot of kind of mid-century furniture, nothing too extravagant inside the house, but they started putting it in their truck, and they estimated how much it was cost. They loaded their truck, but they looked behind the door in one of the bedrooms, and there was a painting behind the door. They did not recognize it initially, and so it was starting to rain, so they took this painting and put it on top of all the other furniture to protect the furniture. Anyway, they got back, and they know Silver City. Despite the fact that we are in the country, Silver City is a town of lots and lots of very intelligent people, well-read people that are very educated. And so the first person that came into these people's business after they removed the stuff from the truck came in and said, "Oh, is that a de Kooning?" And they said, no, it's probably just a reproduction. So and then somebody else came in and said, "Hey, I'll give you $200,000 for that." Ooh. And that looks like a de Kooning. That looks like a de Kooning. And so that when he said $200,000, and he was willing to write a check out, then they thought they better investigate it a little more. So they went online and they found this painting online and a picture of it that had been stolen 30 years ago from the University of Arizona Art Museum.
Amazing.
And so there's a story about that. There's a story about the thieves in the movie, and then we invited the three guys responsible for the return of the painting to the museum.
It's
their story of finding, and I mean it's so amazing. I mean, so unbelievable, and it's so wonderful. I mean, everybody is so proud of these guys because they're so honest.
Yeah.
They didn't want any reward. They didn't want lawyers getting involved. You know, they just wanted to give it back. And so the movie is about that, and they're going to be talking about their experiences right after the film is over. So we are looking forward to that. It's going to be on June 28th. And
cool.
We've been selling tickets because it's a private function to raise money for the museum, for our museum. And so tickets are $20, and I've got 7 tickets left.
As of now. Again, everyone, go to the website, swrm-art.org, but let's get a little bit bigger on this.
You can see the trailer to the movie.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give a trailer to you. You want more than a movie ticket. Yes. You want a building, and so you are really working on a big fundraising, a capital campaign to purchase. Go ahead.
Capital campaign usually has 2 phases. One is the quiet phase, and in the quiet phase, we're hoping to get really large donations from people who are interested in art, interested in community, interested in culture in general, and who have the means to give us $50,000 or $100,000. Okay, we don't expect very many of those, but that's the quiet phase. And we talk to people. Mainly, we're not asking for money. Mainly, we want to talk to people who are truly interested in the value of a museum and an art center. And so after that phase is over, we open it up for the general public, and we ask for donations of any amount, and we appreciate everything. We want to get, hopefully we would get in the first one, we're going to try and get $250,000, and then we feel that will be matched by just general donations from everybody. And it's going to take about $500,000 for us to purchase a building. We could build our own, but generally speaking, with the cost of construction, it's less expensive. We can get more square footage by buying a building that's already erected.
And that makes sense too. And you have some amazing buildings and architecture that would go hand in hand. So you're looking for, like, you're reading on the website, like at least 7,000 square feet is what you need to house what you have, and then be able to do the center and everything else, and events and all of that.
Right.
Okay. Well, people.
That's true. Yeah, because 7,000 feet sounds for some people that will sound really huge, and for other people not. But it's sort of like it's a basic square footage, and within that space, we could probably, half of that will be exhibition space, and the rest of it, some of it will be our library. We haven't talked about the library. We've got this wonderful art research library that's been donated to us, and it's going to be fabulous for people to be able to have access to all these art books. But
and that's amazing too, and I thought it was interesting because of the last name Flanders, because I was going into Flanders Fields, C.W. Flanders Art Research Library. That's amazing. Yeah.
He's a really, really, really nice man. And he heard about the museum a few years ago, and he called me up and said, would you guys be interested in having a lot of books, art books? I wasn't sure what he meant by a lot of art books, but I mean, there's still some we haven't cataloged. We've cataloged over 1,500, and there's still a lot more to catalog. Some of them are out. Some of them are out of print. Some of them are there's a couple of them that are rare books. And these are, it's not going to be like a lending library, because we need to keep them there for our staff to do research. But anybody can come in and browse through them.
That's nice. And people come in. I mean, that's the beauty of having an educational space too, is, we were just at a battlefield the other day, and they had a whole room just dedicated as, here's the archives and the library. And if you need something special, it's huge. I mean, this was the most important Civil War battle of the West, battlefield. And they had all the diaries, which is insane. Like, you could go read the men's stuff. And it's like, you mean I can actually go look up my ancestors here? Yeah, you can. And I think that's so huge. And to be able to go and read, and sometimes, there's something about going to a library and not being in your usual space, because you have to, sometimes you need to jolt out of your comfort zone to learn.
Yeah.
If you're in your same space and you start playing with your cat and, drinking your coffee, looking outside, you know how it is. I'm talking our language there.
Yeah.
And you can get distracted. But when you're in a library, it's like, yeah, I better get down to business. Let's get it. Everybody's focused. You're in a focused room. And then if you start shenanigans, the library says you need to shush or get out. So it's kind of this, that's an important thing, I think, having these spaces as we get so digitally. I mean, we're so digital, which I'm not against, but I'm like, we need to find this balance, and to have places, these tactile places, we're going to, we need them. Us human beings need tactile, real things.
Almost all the artists I know love art books because we are tactile for the most part, and we're visual. And when you look at a book, you see a reproduction of a book, let's say, and of course you're looking at a high quality reproduction, and you can see the color and you can see the arrangement, et cetera, et cetera. You can't necessarily sense the texture of it, of the paint or whatever it is you're looking at. And then if you look at that same thing on computer, you're actually there's another layer between you and the original. So I think anytime you can see the original or close to it, you're better off. You gain more from it, from a visual standpoint.
Well, that's why I think having an actual museum is a huge deal, and you don't being it, and I love galleries, so I ain't knocking that at all. We need galleries.
Oh no,
galleries
are great.
We need the retail spots. Okay, this is that is we need that. Our artists need that. So just saying, the sales portion for artists is very huge, but there's something about being able to just take your time to look. It's like, if you want to go to a gallery, don't take someone with you that is impatient and doesn't have, you know what I mean? You want to go to,
you sound like you can speak from experience.
I can't, like sometimes you just like, wow, I just want to sit and look at this for a while. And I think, going to a gallery, having events like you're doing can be life-changing. It can be absolutely life-changing. I know Tanya Ortega, the founder of the National Parks Arts Foundation, that creates all these amazing programs for artists to have an artist residency in national parks for a full month across the country. Bring her up.
Right.
She was at a museum. I believe it was a museum. If it was a gallery, I'm sorry. But this is what I talk about, life-changing. She saw a painting of a fish. A fish changed her life. We now have this nonprofit because of that fish. Like, the ripple effect.
Wow.
She's got a whole story behind it, and that's her story to tell. But it was one painting that it moved her physically, emotionally, and physically moved her. And then she was like, that's it. Everything I thought I was doing, that's it. This is what I'm doing. And it moved her. And she's an amazing photographer, by the way, just incredibly, just brilliant. I don't even know how she comes up with what she does. It's insanely cool. But that's the point. how art can change and move you. And it's so important. It's important for business people to get out there. It's important for kids. It's important for
Yep.
everybody to get away from the normal humdrum of life. The more that comfort zone I was talking about, that's the importance of libraries, to be able to have access. And in a community like yours, in Silver City, you are on the boonies, sorry, in a good way, which is the appeal of it. But are you going to have all those books for the artists that are in your community? You need that. So I think
Yes.
this is fantastic. So everyone, please go to the website, swrm-art.org. You can donate through there. So there's a link at the bottom page, and I'll have it in the show notes too, the link for donations. But this is going through an organization, the Grant County Community Foundation. There's a fund that is set up. This is a normal thing that nonprofits go through. Victoria said they're a nonprofit, but then there's this whole other fundraising thing that has to go through another one until you get to the other level of a nonprofit. It's called red tape. But anyway, this is all legit. It's all cool. And it's through a foundation, and a foundation's job is to raise funding for their community. It is called Grant County Community Foundation. That's what it's for. So they take the money in for the museum. Have I got that straight, Victoria?
You do, and not only do they take it in, they give it to us afterwards.
Yeah, we like that part a lot too. That's very important. Thank you for adding that.
That's even better part. Yeah, right.
Yes, that is.
Yes, yeah, they're very good, and they keep track of all our donors and make sure that we know who they are, so that we send thank you letters to them, and they make sure that they get a statement that they could use for IRS if they want to deduct their gift from their income taxes. Yeah.
And please send your accountant to the art museum. That creativity boost, I'm just saying. Well, thank you so much, Victoria, for what you're doing for Silver City and everyone that is on your board and working and supporting you. We need to a big shout out, because this is not one person is being paid from this. This is an all volunteer effort to make something work. And that's a beautiful thing when you see it. And as it grows, people do get paid. That's another beauty of these kinds of things. So don't think nonprofits are not job providers. They are. So that's another thing. They are a business. They just are tax free, you know.
It's just that the board of directors never gets anything monetarily, and we will be hiring professionals to run the museum, because we're not expert in that. We're only instigators. We are there to make sure that it's operated in a business-like way, and so that it will everybody can enjoy it, and it will last and last and last.
I love it. I love it. Everyone, victoriachick.com to look at Victoria's work. Also go to swrm-art.org. All the links are in the show notes. And of course, keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. We'll be chatting with Victoria next third Saturday, as we always do. And who knows what our topic is going to be. I have some ideas. I'll just wait till you hear where we are, Victoria. I forgot to tell you before we recorded, but when you hear where we are, you're going to flip. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Take care. And we'll be back here on the third Saturday. Thank you. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Lisa. Bye-bye.